and thank you for joining us here on the Neutral Zone. I am Phil Milani, joined as always by my trusty sidekick.
Excuse me?
My partner in crime. Oh, my esteemed colleague.
Rude.
Sorry, we're saying esteemed colleague these days. I'm sorry. He's my everything. It's at Aric DiLalla.
Wow, we don't do a podcast twice a week anymore, and you forget.
I'm a little off my game just because there's no head coach around here.
Oh, yeah. Leadership for you to...
I need some direction.
No North Star.
A little bit of, some guidance.
Well, hopefully soon enough, Phil.
Yeah, it could be nice. What day is this of the search?
Do you count the final 2 weeks of the regular season?
I know you've been carving it into your desk, like a prisoner. So, yes, I would count that because, as I recall, Greg Penner said that the search starts now.
Oh, that's true. But Jerry Rosburg.
Consider that. Yeah, don't forget about Jerry Rosburg.
Don't do that.
But I would say that the search
come back off his dock.
Yeah, with the coffee.
Yep, he'll find you.
Find me somebody who doesn't like a nice dock with some coffee.
I don't think me or Ben Swanson like that very much.
Yeah, Aric personally really enjoy coffee on a dock. How do you feel?
I think that's a bad opinion.
Yeah. I had a feeling you might say that. Swanson, we should mention that we're here in studio with Ben Swanson.
I'm the trusty sidekick, right?
How do you feel about coffee on a dock?
I actually like it. Now we're ganging up on Aric.
Wow.
What? Gosh. I'm confused. So we'll talk about the search, where things stand a little bit right now with the Broncos.
People are panicking, Phil.
A little bit antsy, I would say. That's what ants in the pants.
Get that checked out.
Yeah, you don't want ants.
Swanson and I were coming into the studio. We saw you just running around the parking lot with your arms flailing in the air, just screaming.
I didn't have a shirt on.
What's happening?
It's like 15
Where's
degrees
our
outside.
coach?
Yeah, it was 15 degrees outside this morning. No shirt on, just running around like just crazy.
People are concerned.
Well, I need a leader.
We should mention that it wasn't until January 27th of last year that the first head coach was named across the NFL. So timing-wise...
Nathaniel Hackett.
Correct. Well, and Eberflus in Chicago, same day.
Yeah.
So it wasn't until then. So it's not like this cycle. Some people are suggesting maybe this cycle's taken a long time.
Some people.
Not us, but some people are suggesting it. It's kind of it's comparable.
It just feels that way.
Yeah.
Why do you think it feels that way?
I think you're kind of in your head a little bit, like back in the day you send a text, you got to wait 3 days, or you get a number, you got to wait 3 days to send a text.
Oh,
like you're dating a little bit.
Yeah.
The Broncos, they got some numbers. They've been waiting weeks to send a text, it seems like.
Yeah.
And so
maybe they sent text, but then maybe they're waiting to hear.
They've been left on red.
Yeah. You put read receipts up?
I don't know.
No, I don't either. That's dangerous.
Yeah, Swanson does that, but that's
a dangerous way
behavior.
To live.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think, you're waiting those 3 days. You're just in your head a little bit. What's going on?
So you think they interviewed Dan Quinn, and they're like, that went pretty well. Like, what do you think?
You just got to wait.
You don't want to seem needy.
Yeah.
Got it. Even though it went well.
I'm talking less about the Broncos here. I'm talking about more about you. Like in your head, you're just like, God, and fans, like, what's happening here? Everyone's freaking out.
How long do you think they waited?
They got the number. You're like, when is that text going to come?
Yeah.
Yeah. Fans are like, why is it taking so long?
Fans are like the friends.
Yeah, they're like, hey, what's going on with that? Yeah. With that Hinge guy?
Well, there was like some people out there saying like, oh, the Broncos are going to have a second interview with Sean Payton. And then they're like, oh wait, no, maybe they're not.
And then they're like, I wasn't reporting that.
Yeah,
that was just something I said.
Yeah,
on a radio show.
Exactly. Yeah, and what the hold up? What's the hold up? Yeah. A
lot of nonsense out there.
It's like you were like telling your friends, you're like, yeah, I went on this date and it was like a lot of fun. And then they're like, are you going to text? And you're like, oh, I don't know. And
I'm not going to tell you.
You should text.
Yeah.
You should text and like set up another date.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't want to see. Yeah. You should just send the text though, in my opinion.
Oh,
if it went well, keep a good thing going.
Maybe a phone call.
You know what I mean?
You skip right to a phone call?
No, I'd still text.
Okay.
Yeah.
You send an emoji?
Yeah, of course. Playful. That's a nice
smiley
touch,
face, or what do you do? Little heart?
If a picture is worth 1,000 words, what do you think an emoji is worth? How many words?
4.
4, 5?
Yeah.
Maybe 5.
You just going to disagree with me on everything I say?
4. Exactly.
I said 4.
Yeah, I say 5. What do you think, Swanson? 4.
What if it's? I think
An
3.
emoji is worth how many words?
I'd say 3.
3. But one character.
Yeah, you're a character.
Yeah. Yeah. So we'll just sort of update where things stand, maybe or reset the table a little bit. It got a little messy. We'll reset it for dessert.
Perfect.
You know what I mean? Does that make sense?
I think it does.
I think it makes sense too. We should mention that we have an email to get to this week.
Wow.
Aric, if a member of NZ Nation, you're driving along on the 25
Yep.
and you're listening right now and you're like, I'm going to send in an email and let them know what I
Trying to
think.
get up to the 70?
Yeah, you're going on the 25 to the 70
Or you're trying to get down
to the mountains.
Or you're trying to get down to the 225.
To get out to the airport?
Yep.
Yeah. Because if you want to get to the airport, you go the 25 to the 225 to the 70 east.
To the Pena.
Yeah, then you get out to the Pena.
Yeah.
So if somebody was doing that
Yeah.
and they wanted to be like, I got to chime in here, how do they do it?
Well, if you're driving, I would probably just recommend dialing 707 neutral and leaving a voice message.
Through the hands-free car system. You know?
Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah. At my Ford.
You say, hey,
at new Ford Bronco.
Hey,
Send voicemail.
Hey, Siri, call Phil and Eric.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You could set it up in your phone. Just have 707 neutral. You could really do that.
They're playing that in their car right now. That might have just activated Siri, right?
I don't think so.
I don't know.
I don't think it works like that.
I gotta be careful not to interrupt anybody because I'm getting yelled at on the YouTube comments.
Oh, you're talking over me. Yeah.
Apparently.
Well, I am the best thing about this show.
Yeah.
So I should just say that. Right
At least one person has said that.
Many people are saying, I heard.
So you could dial 707 neutral, Phil, or if you're at a complete stop,
Yes.
maybe you've parked your car. You do economy or you do garage?
Garage.
Yeah.
I'm a garage guy.
Maybe you parked your car in the garage at Denver International Airport.
Yeah, I think that it's like $80 a day now.
I think so.
Work out there.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Then maybe you send a little email to neutralzoneshow@gmail.com. We'll read it right here on the air.
Yeah.
Or Phil, that could be also a good time to go to the Broncos official YouTube page.
Yeah.
Watch the video there.
The YT.
Leave a comment.
Yeah, let us know what you think about our hair, our QZs. What? Oh, you got flannel under the QZ. I was going to say,
trying to hide
you
it.
little sneak.
Trying to hide it.
Best of both worlds.
You little sneakster over there. Of course, we both have nice QZs on.
Yeah.
Except yours, that doesn't come from a golf course. Everything
Why would it come
okay?
from a golf course?
You feel a little off today?
Why would it?
Maybe that explains a lot. It explains a lot.
Oh, does it?
Yeah, you're a little bit off.
Yeah.
You don't have your golf QZ.
Well, what's your excuse for looking like that then?
Oh, you don't like cashmere? It's too nice. Here's some comments from the old YT.
Okay.
This is from Thoughtful Pinch.
Nice.
Okay. Can't wait to see if you guys settle on above or on the radar.
Good callback.
What do you think? Because that's a sore subject for us.
Yeah.
A lot of debating,
Share.
a lot of talking about this during the week. We still haven't, we've agreed to disagree. I think.
Yeah.
We've got to move on or else.
We'll never talk about anything else.
Exactly. This is from Shogun KRKN. KRKN. I don't know what that stands for, but it says French guy here. I don't know much about U.S. football culture and how the topic is addressed by medias in general. But God, I love if we had such a kind of sports coverage in Europe. Great fun while being informative. Your show is so genuinely absurd at times and still so relevant. I love it.
Wow.
Yeah, Europe's terrible.
Merci beaucoup.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Grazie mille.
You think KRK Kraken?
Like the Seattle Kraken?
Yeah, or the general mythological creature.
It's possible.
General mythological creature. No, we love Europe, Phil.
We do,
Of course, both went to. Oh.
I didn't get to go to London. I didn't get to go.
Broncos postgame live couldn't carry on without you.
Well, I think they just said it would be too much. Just the
Europe couldn't handle you.
Exactly. Yeah.
The plane, they were like, your hair gel weighs too much.
But I would say that probably in the world, Paris is probably my favorite city.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, that's what I would say.
My favorite city is wherever I am with you guys.
Thank you. That's a good answer.
Yeah.
That's a nice answer. We should mention that the neutral zone may be going on the road here pretty soon.
Is that true?
Definitely to Indianapolis the first week in March.
What are you talking about?
Yeah. Ever heard of the Combine?
Oh, yeah. We did a nice episode last year.
Yeah. If you live in the Indy area and you're a big Broncos fan, come out and say hi.
Yeah.
We'll be somewhere.
Just wandering.
We're working on the details, okay? We're working on the details.
Is there a Breckenridge brewery there?
Yeah. There'll be a show in Indianapolis. Let's just say that. Andy Moreno, 79. Funniest line, quote, Walmart wanted Swanson on the podcast. That was pretty good.
What they want, they get.
Yeah. Jason something says, oh, yeah, I love the neutral zone with a capital K. I don't
understand that.
To me. Cindy H says, that's a great book. I think that's in reference to Eric. What was it that you read last week?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
The things we cannot say.
The things we can. That's what it was. Yeah.
It's about World War II.
The real Jay Mills followed up and said, shout out to Eric reading romance novels.
It was a war book.
Yeah.
It's about war.
You buy it at the grocery store.
Yeah. It's really manly. Yeah. And then Darren Tadlock says, how is this possible? The Denver Broncos, the neutral zone, is the funniest podcast on the internet. Can I get an amen, Sydney? That's our rival podcast, so we can't talk about the other podcast. That's too much.
Wow, all good reviews. I like this.
Yeah, and I think that was it. Yeah. Let's see, we got a lot of comments last week.
Yeah.
So I don't want to.
There was the one guy with his like 8-part recommendations.
Brian Johnson.
Yeah, we're not going to read
Johnson. That was a lot.
Yeah.
There was one negative one. This was from Ray Haas. 9+ minutes of nonsensical commentary, and I'm still waiting to hear something about Broncos coaches.
Just 9? Pretty good for us.
That was
Yeah,
pretty
good improvement.
There were a couple of
We're at like 16
replies
right
that
now.
have been hidden, but I think that they don't like Ray. They like the nonsense.
They like the nonsense. I mean, listen, if you want a football podcast where what
It's
people are,
just
I mean,
just boring.
Say you listen to a New Orleans podcast, right? You're listening for information,
and you're just saying
anything
willy-nilly.
And you're like, oh, I just got some great information. Well, guess what? It's not even true.
Not true. Yeah. Yeah, it shouldn't have said in a public.
Or it's like I certainly wasn't reporting it.
Yeah, I'm like, oh.
That's kind of weird, isn't it?
Are you even a real R?
Are you an R that said something? Because that to me is an R. That's a report.
Do. R is a report.
Yeah. Or maybe it's like maybe it's an NFL Network podcast and they're talking about birthdays and they're talking about locker rooms and they're like, oh, I didn't mean that either.
Yeah, I didn't mean it.
People get on podcast, Phil, and they just get all loosey-goosey. That's
why on this podcast, I'm really careful what I say. You know what I mean?
People may laugh at that. You're being serious.
Yeah.
People should hear what you say when we're not recording.
Even more unhinged. Yeah. I'm a little bit crazy.
The 10th factor.
Yeah.
You do 10-factor authentication or no?
That's what, and then it unlocks my craziness. Yeah. Like, are you sure you want this? And they're like, yes. Push notifications.
Do you really think this? Yes.
Multiple devices. Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, on your computer, it's like someone just said something crazy in Phil's brain, and you're like, "Yep, that was me."
That's what it's like before I send a tweet. It's like, "Are you sure?" I'm like, "Yes," and then they're like, "Are you really sure?"
Click every image with a stoplight in it.
Yeah. Are you a robot? No, it's me. Anyway, those are all the ways you can get involved in the show. Please do. We like to make this a fun experience.
We do.
You know, voicemails are our favorite.
Yes.
I would say. We haven't heard from Zach with a C in it.
Swanson and I like emails better.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Is there a way to send in like a video? I don't know if there's a way to do that.
Of course you can.
Maybe you could do a selfie and then email it.
Attach it to your email.
Yeah, that would be nice.
We could put that on YouTube.
Yeah, I would take it.
Tom, the challenge is on.
The challenge.
Tom definitely will.
Of course he will.
Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe he could take a selfie while the neutral zone's playing behind him.
Ooh, and neutral zoneception.
That's true.
Get his wife in there?
A couple layers deep.
Yeah.
It's just like, what? Where did that idea come from? You don't know.
Exactly.
You don't really know. Yeah. You've been having some Broncos dreams. Talking about Inception, right?
I
have. You
have.
had some visions?
Yeah, more visions than dreams, I would say.
Oh, yeah. Because I don't dream.
No. No,
Dream.
you just get plugged into
Yeah.
the outlet.
Yeah, and then I'm
You
recharging.
recharge. Yeah. Well, I think it has to do with sleeping under my desk here at UCL Training Center. That just kind of the aura, the energy around me, it makes me more likely to dream Broncos.
Any visions about a head coach or anything like that, or no? Too early.
Not clear enough. There's kind of like a haze around him.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
I can see.
It's kind of like you know when you go to a website that has a paywall. Sometimes, like instead of just like blocking your access, it kind of like blurs out the words. It's kind of like that. Like you have ran out of your free free articles this.
And that's a tough situation for you
search.
because even when they're unblurred, you still can't understand what it's saying.
Oh yeah, exactly. Like if it's not in English,
Or if it is in English, you're like, gosh, what does this one mean?
Yeah, that's why I have the
You're
dictionary.
like, Aric,
thing
it's
on.
blurred again. I'm like, no, that's just a big word, Phil.
Thank you. Yeah. Thanks for all your help with that. I've been struggling. Thank you. Hopefully you'll subscribe, and we'll have a clear vision of what's going on.
Yeah.
So, anyway,
What do I subscribe to? Like the Beyond?
yeah. How much is that a month?
I don't know.
I think it's expensive.
Yeah. You
Just
gotta
expensive.
take like a blood oath or something.
Save the receipt.
Yeah.
Yeah. Don't.
Tweet them out like the Jaguars.
Yeah. Exactly. It could be nice. The Chiefs should have blasted him.
Should have blasted. Oh, the Jaguars with the receipts.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
Some teams do more blasts than others.
Yeah. The Chiefs don't blast too much. They just win a lot of football games.
Yeah. Eli Apple blasts.
He blasts. Yeah. Could be nice this week if he did some blasting afterward. That would be nice. Okay, let's get into our first topic, really the only topic to talk about. The only
most
thing that
important
people
one?
want. This is the most important one.
Okay.
All anybody talks about around town is what's
Derek
going
Wolf
on
with
with the mountain lion. Yeah,
Is that
should
what
we
you're
get
talking
into
about?
that? He says he's going to eat that mountain lion meat. What do you think about that?
I felt kind of sad for the mountain lion. It was kind of cute.
I did. I felt sad too. I think he's been he said that he has been receiving some hate for what he's done, and to combat the hate, he said, "What's the problem? I'm going to eat that mountain lion meat." And I just,
Perfect.
yeah,
It solves everything.
yeah, exactly. He said he did everything legally. He's got his permits and everything.
Well, I'm not accusing him of anything. I just thought the cat was kind of cute.
Yeah. You could get into a whole ethical sort of situation here, but he does say the thing that was really just stuck with me was that he said he's going to eat that.
He's going to eat it.
Yeah, he's going to eat the mountain lion.
Not to be confused with Philip Rivers' kids.
He also, I think it was Tom Brady's kids, right?
Brady's
Yeah,
kids.
he wants to eat them too.
That's a different. That was more of a joke, I think.
Yeah. Hopefully, well, do you think he's joking? Yeah.
Hopefully.
Do you think he's joking about the mountain lion meat?
No, I don't.
No,
think so.
I don't.
No.
I do think. Yeah, I guess if you're going to hunt, you might as well use all of it.
If you heard that from Derek Wolf, and then he was like, "Hey, I'm having a party in my house. Like, I'm grilling.
We're
some
grilling
stuff."
out.
Yeah. Would you be a little nervous to go, or would you be like, "Hey, what kind of burgers are these?
Yeah.
You know, is
Like,
this a buffalo burger? No.
I'm going to pick up some rabbits
Spicy.
on my way over, or what?
Yeah, rabbit. You do some paella with some rabbit.
Ooh.
That's a traditional meat
European.
of, yeah, that's European. See, I'm bringing it all back.
Circle back.
Bringing it all back. KRKN. Okay, now for real, let's
He
get
throws
into
in
it.
with a K. All right,
9
yeah,
minutes.
sorry. Sorry, that was my fault. I just thought it was a funny joke.
No, that is good. Yeah. Yeah, that was something else. That kind of blew up, huh?
Yeah,
That became a big deal.
it did.
Yeah. Okay, well, let's talk about the Broncos coaching search a little bit here and what's going on. Sort of set the table. Let's first of all, as we're recording this on Thursday, the Broncos, as we know, have not really gotten particularly close to making a decision here.
Yeah, certainly. Things have been quiet.
It's been a little bit quiet this week. We thought maybe there's going to be some second interviews. We thought that I think most people thought that when the Sean Payton didn't happen, when the Jim Harbaugh didn't happen, that they would be all in on Sean Payton. But I don't think it's necessarily gone that way.
No, and to recap, the Broncos had, I think, 3 interviews the first week. They had 5 interviews, I believe, the next week. which was last week, finished off last Friday with Dan Quinn reportedly. You had D'Amico Ryans last week. And so there was this sense that, hey, you're going to regroup over the weekend. There'd be second interviews this week. There was a report out of New Orleans. I think it was a report.
I think that was a report.
I think that was a report that Sean Payton would be in Denver on Wednesday. Then it became Sean Payton would be in Denver on Thursday. Then it got delayed.
Yeah.
And he was in Arizona. For whatever.
There was another hunting sort of thing going out
some
there.
Hunting happening.
Stuff.
Something about Derek Wolfe hunting impacted the Broncos coaching search or something.
Something about a lion.
And what's happened essentially is that we've gone through essentially a whole nother week without any second interviews.
Or much reporting on any
or much reporting. And so there's been a lot of speculation out there of, the national reporters, Phil, they mine, they dig, they search for things. And there's been a lot of, I'm hearing that the Broncos could potentially like this guy or could potentially be interested in this this coach. There's this sense, I think, nationally that Sean Payton's interest level or teams' interest in Sean Payton has cooled a little bit this week.
Yeah.
There's kind of a sense that he may go back to Fox and continue broadcasting, but there has been no indication one way or another of who the real favorite is. And so you're just seeing stuff. People are just throwing stuff at the wall right now to see what sticks. And that's where this is. The timing, I think, is the same. The number of interviews is about the same as last year, 8 versus 10. Time frame's the same. The difference here is that last year the Broncos announced each interview, and they announced, hey, we're doing second interviews. And then they announced, when the second interview with Nathaniel Hackett was completed, I believe. The Broncos have not officially acknowledged anything, and this search committee has done a good job of keeping the leaks. There aren't any. And so if you're hearing things, it's probably coming from the coaching candidate side. And so there's a lot of people right now who just don't know what's happening. And where we are right now is we're just waiting for the committee to make a decision, I think.
Yeah. And like that Sean Payton stuff this week, there was just so much about that and so much on both sides that no, this isn't happening. Yes, it is happening. Josina Anderson put out something. No, it's not happening. The Broncos aren't close. There's just been a lot of conflicting back and forth. Let's go over some of the names that we've heard that they've interviewed. Jim Harbaugh was early on, and then it seemed like maybe there was some interest there, but then he said, I'm going back to Michigan.
Yep.
What are some of the other names that we've heard that they've interviewed with? Sean Payton. We heard that they interviewed with. Dan Quinn they've interviewed with. D'Amico Ryans. Ejiro Evero.
Yep. Jim Caldwell.
Jim Caldwell. David Shaw.
Yep.
These are all names that have been reported. Am I missing somebody?
That's 7.
Raheem Morris. 8.
Yep.
That's what we're at, right? 8?
Yeah, and it should be noted that Dan Quinn was eligible to interview this week because, of course, the Cowboys lost in the prior round. The Broncos chose not to pursue a second-round interview with him based on what we've been able to gather.
Yep.
If you want to interview a D'Amico Ryans, he's not eligible to interview this week.
Yep.
And so some people, there's speculation, maybe are they
just
waiting to talk to him?
Yep.
Which is always a possibility. He would be eligible, I believe, to interview next week. Obviously, you cannot hire him if that's the direction the Broncos choose to go until after the 49ers are, either eliminated or win the Super Bowl. So
yep.
If they lose this weekend, you could pursue that next week. If they go to the Super Bowl, you'd have to wait. These other candidates, Sean Payton, there were reports that the Broncos understood that the Saints' asking price might be a first-round pick and that they were okay with that.
Yep.
There were then reports that
it was going to be higher.
Yeah, that they could want more, but also that things didn't go as well because Sean Payton wanted more roster control than they expected. There are kind of a variety of factors, but for whatever reason, like we said, that seems like it's cooled. But really, Phil, to me, it wouldn't surprise me if a number of we haven't heard much about Ejiro Evero, Jim Caldwell, Raheem Morris. Really, I'm trying to think if there's anybody else I'd put in that category. Jim Harbaugh, because he pulled himself out of here. But those have cooled. I think you could look at the other 4, Dan Quinn, D'Amico Ryans, Sean Payton, David Shaw, and they could pick any of those people, and it really wouldn't be a surprise to me. Just the way that this, as quiet as it's been, there could be an announcement immediately, or it could be in a couple weeks. Like whenever it happens, I think this is going to happen suddenly, and I don't think that there's going to be like, some of these teams with the Panthers, there was a report, they're leaning toward Steve Wilkes or Frank Reich, and they're down to these candidates, and they're going to decide between them. David Tepper's in the building. It would surprise me if the Broncos search ends like that. I would just think I'm sure it'll break, but I would expect the Broncos are going to name this guy their head coach, and it'll just come out of nowhere and it'll just happen.
Yeah. It's been interesting. A lot of times in these situations, like the first domino falls, and then all of a sudden, all these teams start hiring. It doesn't seem like it's breaking that way. It's just been like sort of a long process this year. And I think one thing that's clear is like the Broncos are going through that process in earnest. Like, it's not like they've been like, we want this guy, we'll interview like these other four, but then we'll just hire the guy we want. It does seem like they've really taken their time with this and gone through the entire process genuinely.
Yeah. And, I think that you've got a variety of candidates who could be good options. And so they're probably trying to figure out, hey, who is the best option? Just because you don't have second round interviews that are reported doesn't mean that there's not communication with these candidates. I mean, it's very, you're allowed to still communicate with these guys without having
an official
interviews. And so that doesn't mean that there's not, you just chat with someone.
Contact.
I think, I believe it was Parker Gabriel from the Denver Post pointed out a few candidates last year who just had one interview with their team.
And then
were hired. And so it's not a necessity that there's second round interviews. It's a little bit odd maybe because the Broncos said, I believe, right at the initial press conference, I think Greg Penner said that they were going to do initial interviews and then have a more thorough second round. So maybe that's what was expected, but sometimes things change during the search and you've got to be able to adapt and kind of pivot, and those are key things to be able to do when you're running a search, which obviously Greg Penner has a lot of experience doing.
Yeah, everybody, I think, goes about this a different way. Like they just have, some people are like, I have a gut feeling about this person and I just want to do it. Other people are like, we want to really dive in and do a lot of homework. Other people are like, the interview blew us away and we were sold and, we're off and running. There's just so many different ways about how these teams come to their eventual conclusion and pick a guy. It's just been, I think from a fan's perspective, you're just like, what's going on? Why haven't they hired this guy? And like of the pool of names that have been reported out there, I think just jumping off the page, Jim Harbaugh and Sean Payton were like those two candidates that everybody was like attached to. And then so like, because it's taking time, I think from a fan base perspective, you're like, is that not going to happen? Are those two not going to happen? And then you start to sort of worry about the rest of the candidates and be like, are they going to get a guy who's going to, restore the tradition here? I think there's just sort of like no news. You start to just like make up things in your head and you're like, what's going on? And you start to worry a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, I think with Jim, who obviously he pulls himself out of it. So that stops being an option. Sean, you can hire at any point, and same with Jim. And so you're right. If there was a sense that, hey, if they'd already had their mind made up and they went after one of these guys, it could be done already.
Yeah.
And so I think one, that shows that either it didn't work out with those guys or the Broncos or them. Obviously Jim pulled himself out of that search. Seems like maybe the Broncos have cooled on Sean Payton a little bit. But then you also have to recognize that the Broncos didn't just go through this search like you said, they were being genuine. They were, I think, being honest in their evaluation and their interviews. And so they didn't just say, hey, we're gonna do this and the rest of these are gonna be sham interviews. I think, they went in with an open mind. And so it's highly possible that one of these 8 candidates that is not a Harbaugh or a Payton who stood out to fans at the very beginning, the Broncos might have become really impressed with one of these candidates and said, okay, well, this is why you do interviews, because and why you look at resumes of, hey, we could find a candidate here who's, really impressive. And you could say, well, hey, after interviewing with Jim Caldwell or after talking with Dan Quinn or D'Amico Ryans, these are guys that one of these guys really blew us away. And obviously you can't base everything just off an interview, but you look at the success that, just those 3 guys, for example, have had elsewhere. You could start to say, okay, well, maybe this person could be a really good candidate, and maybe we don't need to give away a first round pick to get a head coach. And so that's kind of where the, I would say maybe the time element comes into play is just, I like the fact that they casted a wide net and were willing to
hear these people out.
Because you don't want someone, I believe Elway said when he made the second hire, when he hired Vic Fangio, I wish, I'm going to go into this with a little bit more open mind. I think he said that, when he hired Vance Joseph, he'd kind of had his mind made up going into the process. And I do think we've heard other GMs, Chris Ballard with the Colts said, you've got to go into these processes without any, preconceived notions, without any sort of idea of, hey, I'm definitely going to hire this person, but we'll just interview these guys for the sake of, being thorough. You really got to go in with an open mind. And so it's possible the Broncos did that and have decided on somebody else, and they're just working behind the scenes to make that happen.
Yeah, I agree with you. I also think the Broncos situation sort of allows for that to happen too, where you've got new owners in the building here that they want to go through this process. It's not like a John Elway where they've hired several head coaches here. Like this is the first time they've done this. They want to go through the process. And also like just where the situation where the Broncos are, there's a lot of different directions they could go in. There's not like a clear, like I sort of feel like, say, like when the Broncos wanted to hire Gary Kubiak, that was a team that was like knocking on the door and they were looking for something specific, like, hey, we need this to get us over the edge, over the hump here. This team is in just a completely different situation where they're like, they could go in a lot of different directions. It's not like, oh, they need an offensive-minded this, or, oh, they need a defensive-minded this, or we did think that maybe experience was going to be an important part of this, but George Payton said, no, that's not necessarily a requirement. So it does seem like they have just casted a wide open net here.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure experience would still be welcome. I don't know that it's a necessity. But listen, you also can say that if you find a young guy, you can have somebody here for a long time if it works out. Whereas you go with Sean Payton, who knows how long he would want to coach. It doesn't mean you dismiss it entirely, but he's obviously stepped away for a year. Maybe he's a guy that maybe he's here 4 years and that's all you get. And obviously, I think the Broncos right now, if they could get a coach to be here for 4 years, they'd probably sign up for that.
That'd be an eternity. Why so long?
So, but I do think that that's something that you're right. It was never, we've talked a lot about how having a coach with experience would be good, but there are ways around. If you decide not to go that direction, you can build an experienced staff. But Phil, I also think part of the reason why maybe this is, and again, it's not taking a long time because as we mentioned, a coach was announced. The Broncos
this day
coach,
last year.
Yeah, so it's similar. It's comparable. I would say that the Broncos, their opening is not like the others.
Yeah, a little bit different.
Like the Texans are a really young football team that have a really high draft pick. The Colts are about to draft, I would assume, a quarterback and kind of change the trajectory of their franchise. The Panthers have I believe, a high draft pick and I kind of view them as a young roster too. I would kind of say the Broncos and Cardinals are more comparable where they have quarterbacks in place that at least for 2023, Kyler Murray and Russell Wilson are the quarterbacks in those locations.
Kyler's he's probably going to miss most of the season, right?
Most of it?
I would think so, because he got hurt so late.
Yeah.
What was that, week 17?
I think they were saying that he could still return early in the season. I don't know if it'll be week 1.
But that's their franchise quarterback.
He's their guy.
He's their quarterback.
And the divisions are tougher, I think, in the NFC West and the AFC West than they are.
Most definitely.
The NFC South where the Panthers are, the AFC South where the Texans are. So you got to have somebody you're right, Colts too. You got to have someone that comes in and is willing to accept that challenge to compete with a Mahomes and a Herbert twice a year, Tom Brady.
What do you think, Aric? Based off of that, do you think that the person they end up hiring will let this fan base know how close the ownership group thinks this team is? Like, for example, if they go out and pull the trigger on a Sean Payton, that sort of suggests maybe they think this team is close. They just need a high profile guy that'll do it. Or if they go in a different direction, a younger coach, that lets them know, no, this is more of like a long-term project where we're like, oh, we'll go through some growing pains here. We'll go through this learning process with a first timer. And then from that point, we'll go and see where this goes.
Yeah, I understand the question and like the theory behind it. But like you said, this is not a team that went to the divisional round the year before, that went to a Super Bowl. This is a team that hasn't made the playoffs in 7 years. And so I don't think you can look at it as, or at least I wouldn't look at it as the coach determining, are you a contender or not? I would just view it as, hey, we need to find the best coach for this organization that can create some stability here for an extended period of time. And if that's an experienced head coach like Sean Payton or Dan Quinn, if that's a younger coach, a first-time guy, a D'Amico Ryans and a Giro Evero, then fine. But I don't think you can look at this and say, hey, we want to be hosting an AFC championship next year, but we don't really care about 5 years down the road. Like, we got to win right now versus, hey, we want to be, we're going to be okay being bad for a little bit. I think this has to be more. I don't think you can look at it like that. I think it's got to be more about just what is best for the long-term health, of the franchise, and finding somebody that can help this team win. And because
like going after a Sean Payton though is a way different deal than like an Evero, right?
Right. No, I
sort of.
But
those are like 9-day differences.
Of course, it's different in terms of.
What would that tell you? Like, just like going in one of those directions, just because they're so different.
Well, I think there would be like an external expectation that the Sean Payton means, hey, we're going for it this year. But I also think that you can't. I don't think if you're making this decision, you should decide between like going for it this year or like you need to pick the coach, not what the result is.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. And so they shouldn't be looking at it and saying, we want to win this year, so we're going to go with Sean Payton versus, we're fine waiting a few years and seeing what happens. So let's go with a young coach. They need to just say, okay, let's find the best coach among these 8 candidates, 7 without Harbaugh, and then make a decision. And then whatever the path that comes off of that is, you got to be okay with it. And so, because I think if you say, hey, we think we're really close, so we're going to get Sean Payton, even though we think Dan Quinn is a better long-term fit or better coach or, helps us more down the road, I think then you're setting yourself up, I don't want to say for failure, but you're not making, in my opinion, the best decision. And so I would, instead of looking at it as picking your result first and then picking the coach, I would pick the coach first that you think is just the best overall coach. And to me, Phil, we talked a lot about experience. I think you've got to remove that to some degree and just say, okay, whether it's a first-time guy, whether it's a guy who's won a Super Bowl, whether it's a guy who's been to the Super Bowl and lost, whether it's a guy who's coached at the collegiate level, like David Shaw, but never been an NFL head coach, remove all those things and just say, and obviously success and track record matter, but remove those things and just say, who is the best coach, and then go from there.
In that situation, how much of a factor does the current Broncos roster play into that decision then? Because there's been a lot of talk about you need to find somebody who's going to get the most out of Russ. You need somebody who's going to be this guy who holds the team accountable. There's a lot of young guys on this team that have never won before. Like, you need to find a coach that fits this team. But then again, you just want the best coach overall. So, like, how much do you balance those two things?
Yeah, I mean, one, your head coach is not the end-all, be-all. And I think that we saw where there were some issues with Nathaniel Hackett's staff is that it wasn't just about Nathaniel Hackett. You had a lot of inexperienced coaches, and it worked in some cases. Giro Evero was a great defensive coordinator in his very first time calling plays in the NFL. We saw some other areas, some position groups probably, where it didn't work as well with first-time coaches. And so you can hire an offensive. I do agree with you. Getting the most out of Russell Wilson is really important because he's under contract. The Broncos, believe me, want Russell Wilson to be here long-term. People talk a lot about, when can you get out of this externally? The Broncos want Russell Wilson to be here, and there's a reason they traded for him. And so you want to get the most out of him. But that doesn't mean your head coach has to be the guy that's getting the most out of him. It could be, hey, hire a really strong offensive coordinator. I think putting together a staff around these guys. I mean, if you hire Dan Quinn, who's your offensive coordinator going to be?
Yeah.
If you hire DeMeco Ryans, who's your offensive coordinator going to be? If you hire David Shaw or Sean Payton, who's your defensive coordinator going to be?
Yeah.
The Saints had some real defensive issues in New Orleans. Who's gonna come here? You know, there's a lot of reports about Vic Fangio. Is that realistic? I don't know. You know, who's going to come here and manage the rest of the team? So I would say that first is that your staff matters. It doesn't just have to be the head coach. Two, yeah, you got to get the most out of Russ. You want him to be the quarterback. You need to find a way to make him play at that level. I think you've seen he's capable of playing at that level. I think that can be done whether it's Sean Payton or somebody else. I mean, there's this sense, right, that like Sean Payton is the guy that can unlock Russell Wilson or can get him back to where he was. One, we don't know that that's true for sure. Also, we just saw Russell Wilson be fixed or look a lot better with Jerry Rosberg and Justin Allen. And so
I think the reason that came up maybe is just because Russ talks so highly of Sean Payton after the season, after that final game. So
yeah, no, I mean,
I guess I wish I was a fly on the wall when Russ comes up in some of these interviews because I agree with you, Eric. I sort of think that you need to just hire the best head coach here. But at the same time, the topic of Russ is going to come up in these interviews. And say you find a coach that you really like. What if that coach says, look, I don't think that Russ is going to be the guy here. Like, there might be some problems. Then you have a hard decision to make, right? You as an ownership group have indicated everything that, hey, Russ is the guy here. We gave him this extension. We're behind Russ, but now you're trying to hire this head coach. There's a balance there where you're like, I want to find the best head coach overall, like sort of in this vacuum. But at the same time, that guy's got to have a plan to be able to come in here and say, I'm going to be able to work with this team as it's currently structured and get the most out of these guys and win.
Yeah, no doubt. We don't know that anyone has come in and been like, I can't work with Russ.
No, I'm just speculating.
Right.
I'm saying, what if that situation occurred?
Yeah, and if that's the case, maybe that person's not interested in the job to begin with. You know, it's possible because I don't think any candidate is coming in here thinking Russell Wilson is not the quarterback in 2023. And so you know that if you're coming here, you're tying your success, your future to Russell Wilson. And so if I were interviewing, and a lot of these candidates, Phil, they know the deal. Some sort of, self-confidence. I don't want to say ego, but, a strong belief in themselves that I know exactly how to get the best out of Russell Wilson.
Yep.
And so, yeah, I would say it's unlikely that anyone's coming out and saying directly, I don't think it's possible to win with Russell Wilson. I think, hey, here's how we get the most out of Russ. Or, I don't see necessarily the same Russ that I saw before. Here's how to maximize. How to get the most out of it. But you talk about the rest of the roster, Phil. I think, one, it's important to note that Russ took a lot of the heat, and deservedly so. He's the highest paid player on the team, one of the higher paid quarterbacks in the NFL. It's not all on Russ.
No.
What went wrong. And so I do think whoever comes in, you've got to coach this whole team. You've got to find a way to get more out of them because you need more out of Jerry Jeudy.
Yeah.
Jerry Judy's got
a whole year.
Jerry Jeudy can't play that way for just 4 weeks.
Yeah.
He's got to play that way the whole year. You need more out of Randy Gregory and Nick Bonito. If Draymond Jones is back, he's a free agent. He's back. You need more out of Draymond Jones. You need Justin Simmons to play that way the whole season. You need the offensive line. You need Garrett Bowles to be better when he's in there. And so
there's 2 parts to this equation, draft and develop.
Yep.
The develop part of it is it's got to get better.
It's got to get better. These players have to be coached hard. I think there was a sense last year, Phil, I don't know if I've said this many times, that Russ, when he showed up, that it was just, hey, we're going to go to the Super Bowl.
Yep.
And I think the guys need to be coached hard and understand that there's a lot more to this than just Russ. And so when you bring somebody in, it's got to be somebody for the whole team. And also, Phil, the rosters in this league change so quickly that 30 players that were on this team last year could be gone next year. And so you look at it, 20, 30 players. Yeah, you got to worry about this year's team, but the group you're getting hired to coach right now could be significantly different in August when you're in training camp. So I think it's got to be more about traits. How do you get the most out of guys? No matter who's, obviously Dan Quinn, really easy to, or not easy, but it's easier to play, to direct a strong defense when you got Micah Parsons out there.
Yeah.
If you're D'Amico Ryans, easier to direct a strong defense when you got
Hufanga
and Fred Warner and Nick Bosa. But you've got to be able to do that with other guys too. And so how do you do that with the whole team? And so you're right, there is a Russ element, but I think it's got to extend more than that. Yeah,
it's just going to be sort of an interesting situation on ultimately what's going to sell this ownership group on this candidate. Is it the experience? What's going to be the determining factor here on the guy that ends up being the next Broncos head coach? So we sort of set the table where we are now. What do you think is predict the future here? What's a timetable looking like here?
Well, I mean, there's reports that the Panthers are going to hire somebody here soon.
So that could be the first domino.
Typically when those happen, you tend to see things come into shape, into form quickly. The Broncos haven't done any official second interviews, which would lead you to think, okay, well, does that mean maybe they're waiting to talk to a D'Amico Ryans when he's available, or have they decided on another candidate and they're trying to get that deal done? Either way, the lack of other candidate, I don't want to say lack of, the fact that you don't see like 3 guys still involved or 4 guys that are like actively jockeying against each other, like it almost seems like the Broncos have the information they need now, and they're just they're planning to move forward in that direction. Like if we find out today that Sean Payton, Dan Quinn, D'Amico Ryans, and David Shaw are all coming back for second interviews, then obviously it's going to take some time here. As long as we don't hear that, and I would think at this point that that's unlikely given that we've gone a whole week without second interviews.
Yeah.
It would make me guess that the Broncos have narrowed down who they want, and now it's just a matter of going to get that person. And so that would make me think that sooner rather than later, you're going to find out who the coach is.
Yeah. The other thing that hasn't been like pushing them is like, it's not like they really want Sean Payton, and then there's another team that's like really involved in that, and they're not like, okay, we got to get this done ASAP, otherwise he's going to go to Carolina. That situation has never, or at least to our knowledge publicly, that hasn't unfolded at all. So,
well, and that's kind of when I mentioned like the Broncos job. I don't know if I ever got to that point, but like the Broncos job is not the same as some of these other jobs. And so while some of the candidates overlap, like D'Amico Ryans interviewed in Houston, and Sean Payton interviewed in Carolina, and I think Dan Quinn interviewed in Arizona and Indianapolis, like while some of the candidates have overlapped, you're right. It's not like the same teams are competing necessarily for the same guys.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure that all of these teams are looking for the best, who they think is the best.
Right. For their organization. And
yeah. But there hasn't been like a guy that like multiple teams like seem like they're really close to getting a thing done with, and there's like competition among the teams.
Right.
It just sort of seems like there hasn't been that pressure to like pull the trigger so far.
No, and part of the reason to pull the trigger is to get the staff set, right?
Yeah, and that too.
And so as long as another team doesn't have their staff set, you're not. Yeah, and granted, there's a lot of teams out there that need offensive coordinators that are not hiring head coaches. You're competing against the Ravens. You're competing against the Chargers. So I would like to see this get wrapped up sooner rather than later, so that the Broncos can go get their OC as well, or their defensive coordinator.
Yeah.
But in terms of these 5 teams that need head coaches, once you see one of those guys get named, then I think there'll be some movement, because you got to fill out an entire staff of 20 to 30 people. And so you don't want to be the last team out of 5 to be trying to, because then you could be down to your 4th or 5th option at certain position coaching spots. So you don't want to, I don't think you want to be the last team there. So
Agreed. So that's sort of where things stand right now as we record this on January, what's today, 26? I think it's 26.
26.
Yeah, 26.
Check. Ben Swanson.
Calendar?
It's the 26th.
Thank you. And we'll see what happens. I mean, we're heading into conference championship weekend here, so we'll have to see what happens over the weekend. But let's get to an email here This is from John Jornad, Eric, your
Our guy.
very close friend. He addresses it, Eric, Ben, and Phil.
Good order.
Let me last.
That's for last.
Alphabetical.
Says, you guys crack me up. I love hearing all of your talking, so I have a couple of questions. Thanks, John. It's very
I
kind
think he
of
likes
you.
it talking. That's the,
I've never heard of getting picks for a coach. Is this something new? Also, if they have to pay teams to get head coaches, does the same apply to assistant coaches? So outfitting a team with coaches is going to cost a lot of capital.
Good questions, John.
That, of course, is just specific to Sean Payton because the Saints have his rights under contract, and he retired.
Yes.
So
it's not new.
No, that's
certainly,
like
I would say John Gruden, a more prominent coach that has been traded, Bill Belichick.
Strangely, trading for a coach has worked out in a lot of situations.
Yeah.
You know, that has proven to pay off. It's kind of an interesting.
according to this NBC Sports article, it's happened 6 times since 1997. Bill Parcells from Patriots to Jets. That was a first, a second, a third, a fourth, and some financial compensation. Mike Holmgren from the Packers to the Seahawks in 99. Bill Belichick in 2000 from the Jets to the Patriots. Gruden, of course, 02, Raiders to Bucks. Herm Edwards in 2006 from the Jets to the Chiefs. And then in 2019, it says that Bruce Arians went from Cardinals to Buccaneers for a 6th-round pick. So some of those first are involved. Bill Belichick was a first, 4th, and a 7th. That obviously worked out pretty well.
I'd do that right now
For Bill Belichick.
I'd do it.
Well, bold. The answer for assistant coaches is no, you don't. It doesn't require the same compensation. There are rules about blocking coaches for interviews. You can't
Advancement.
Yeah, you can't block them from advancement. So a quarterback's coach cannot be blocked from interviewing for an offensive coordinator job, but a quarterback's coach can be blocked to come do the same role with the Broncos. And then there's some rules about play calling versus not play calling.
Yeah, didn't somebody want to interview Avero for a defensive coordinator job?
The Falcons and the
Yeah,
Broncos reportedly blocked him. They did not block Justin Allen, which is interesting that they would do that with one coordinator versus not the other.
But they can't block Avero from interviewing for head coaching jobs.
Correct. And then, assistant coach contracts, in my understanding, are shorter than head coaching contracts. So there's a lot of them that expire. And so, if a contract has expired, obviously you can do whatever you want. And so, Jerry Rosberg, whose contract expired, a team can request to interview him for a special team, or they don't even have to request because he's not under contract. They can interview him for a special teams job.
Yeah.
And the Broncos can't do anything about it.
No, he's not under contract.
So
he was like, is this like some CEOs that have a non-compete clause for, say, like 5 years to work for a competing company? Not really like that.
No, I think it's to prevent Sean from retiring because the team is bad, which some would argue is what kind of looked like happened.
Yeah.
And then just saying, okay, I'm going to go coach the Bucks next year,
really good
or the Dolphins next year. It's the same way that if a player retires, their rights stay with the team. A little bit different because a player's contract actually stops when they retire.
Yeah.
The coach contract keeps going. So if Sean Payton were to come back in 2025, he would be free to go anywhere.
Yeah. It's kind of like, it's not exactly like when Ben Swanson, like he can't go do the Raiders podcast.
Or Broncos Now.
No. Yeah, or Broncos Now. Like you've got to non-compete with those.
But if he were doing Broncos Now, he could come to the neutral zone because it's
you can advance.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can advance. You're allowed to do that. And then John Jordan also wants to know who you're picking this weekend.
Oh.
Who you're picking this weekend. And before he gets that, he just closes out and says, still here and enjoy your podcast, especially love the addition of Ben. Now we have 2 sane podcasters.
That's you too, I'm guessing.
I appreciate it.
Me and Phil.
I appreciate all of the love you send my way. Who you picking?
Yeah, everybody's on the Bengals train. I love Joe Burrow and
I feel a butt coming.
Mahomes' ankle as he's stepping off the podium yesterday looked fine.
Deer antlers
he looked
spray, maybe,
fine
huh?
to me.
You think he's been using some of that?
I'm just a little worried that everyone's just assuming the Bengals are going to go down there and win. I think I do think the Bengals are going to win, but I'm worried.
Trim your edges recently?
I'm worried. I'm worried. So Bengals and I think Eagles.
I'm taking Bengals Niners.
Okay.
Niners, a lot of Broncos connections there with the Niners.
I'm asking who
like
you
that.
want to win.
Well, I like that, and I think that they're gonna pull an upset.
Okay.
That's what I think. Swanson?
Ooh, my thoughts? Okay. I'll go with Bengals.
Okay, yeah, no.
All right. That's
like,
good.
We're running out of time.
Their defensive coordinator is really good. So I think he'll do a good job.
The Bengals defense coordinator?
Yeah.
Yeah. What's his name, Swanson?
Like a Renamo or
A
something like
Renamo?
that. I don't remember.
First name's Lou.
Lou.
That's-
Something. Yeah.
He really
Anyway,
likes him so
this
much
is
that he
why-
doesn't know
yeah.
his name.
If you're wondering
Who
why,
knows
this is
defensive
why we don't let
coordinators?
Swanson talk.
But I think he'll do a good job. I think they'll get another win there. I like Joey B in that match.
Oh, yeah.
He's him.
What's his championship window like?
I think it's his whole career.
Yeah.
And then I like the Eagles in the other game. I just think they're really balanced, and Brock Purdy's played really well, but he
Pretty
could get in
well.
Pretty well.
Yeah, he could get in some trouble there with their.
What about Christian McCaffrey?
Yeah, he's good. He's
Debo-
hobbled a little bit.
Debo
huh?
Samuel said that there's no way Philly is louder than San Francisco.
Oh,
I don't think of San Francisco as a particularly
Yeah.
loud stadium. Do you?
no.
Like maybe Candlestick. but
Candlestick, yeah.
Not, Levi's is a little corporate.
It has that feel to it.
Yeah.
You say.
It's a wine and cheese crowd.
Yeah. But I do think that fan base can
Philly's
be crazy, though.
insane.
You know what I mean? Yeah, the Philly.
Throw snowballs at Santa.
Yeah. I don't know. I do think that the 49ers have like the faithful, you know, they got a strong fan base, but it doesn't particularly seem like rowdy.
I just don't understand the like Trevor Lawrence did this last week. What is the point of just taunting the opposing crowd the week before you go there?
Oh yeah, there's not much strategy.
Like, what do you think?
Or-
he's also like, oh, Jacksonville's probably louder than Kansas City, and he's like, though I guess we were in offense in Jacksonville when, you know, like
Oh, is that what he said?
he was like, oh, but I guess like we're not on the field when our crowd's being loud, so I don't really know what that's like.
But you're
It's
on
like-
the side.
Yeah, maybe he didn't think about his answer too much.
Yeah, and like Debo, of course, like it's gonna be easier to play in San Francisco for you because they're not loud there.
Yeah, but maybe he's just trying to get him riled up to like maybe he feeds
Make
off
them
of that.
louder.
No. Maybe he likes that.
Yeah.
Maybe you know.
If I were Brock, I'd be like, could you not? I
know
gotta
how,
hear. I gotta be the one to hear in the
Yeah.
headset, and you're telling him to be louder.
You know how like MJ he feeds off that hate, the hate. He shrugs. He's like,
Who?
Michael Jordan,
Oh,
the best basketball player of all time.
okay. So some days it's Jokic, some days it's MJ.
That's pretty much like 1-2 in my head.
Yeah.
It's okay. So we'll have to see. So you're both taking. You like the Bengals and Chiefs. You like both
He's
of them,
picking
and
both
then you
teams,
also like.
Yeah, I like the
you
Eagles
also
and the
like the
Niners.
Eagles.
And some kind of the Niners.
Yeah. Okay. Got it. Interesting. Okay. Well, we'll have to see what happens. I'm hoping for some good games because the divisional round, it kind of disappointed a little. The games.
The wild card, some of the wild card games.
great.
Yeah.
Normally
Divisional round?
and we thought kind of like division will be great because there are a lot of good matchups.
Yeah.
Just
Some
didn't
letdowns.
happen.
Some letdowns. So maybe it's like an every other week sort
I
of
think the Bengals defense is they're gonna take care of business
because of that
Swanson said.
coordinator.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Lou.
Maybe the Broncos should hire him.
Yeah.
We're on first name basis. It's Lou.
Yeah, Lou.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's nice. Any shout outs to get to here, Eric?
Well, Liz Gerald's.
Of course.
Some really nice community going on.
Stuff going on. Nikola Jokic.
Our guy Reed
Reed, of course.
upstairs.
Jokic has a big battle with
Back to
Joel
Jokic.
Embiid on Saturday. I'm looking
gonna-
forward to that.
Nice, congrats.
Is Jokic going to play?
In Philly?
He's
yeah,
been,
he
In
was-
Philly, huh?
Is it in Philly? I know it's on ABC.
Well,
That's
Avs are
big.
playing in Denver on Saturday because I'm going to be there.
Oh, you're going to a nice Avs game,
Yeah.
huh? Wow, first time for everything, huh?
No, I like the Avs.
Oh, I didn't know that.
I've been to one game.
Nice.
This will be number 2.
This week?
One game this week?
Yeah.
No.
What you said?
I've been to one game ever.
Oh, nice. That'll be fun.
Yeah.
It is
Yeah.
in Philadelphia.
It's on. It's
I
rivalry
used
week
my
in
brain.
the NBA, so
Oh, is it?
yeah. That's what
That it.
That's what they've been calling this week. So it's Jokic and Embiid. It's going to be big. Yeah, I think he's going to play. He's just been doing some maintenance on a tight hammy.
Nuggets versus Team Doctors. Rivalry week.
They didn't want to play the back-to-back.
Yeah. But the back was in
Shout out. No. He missed the game due to personal reasons. That's what they listed.
Very sad situation.
Yeah. Any other
rivalry
shoutouts?
week?
That's what Phil said.
It is. Yeah, that's what they've been calling this week. That's why, like, Ja and Steph Curry, they were playing, you know, like they've tried to set up some rivalries.
Rivalry week. Bulls, Hornets.
Maybe that's an MJ sort of rivalry thing.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah, maybe.
See? You don't even know what your favorite team's rival is.
Wizards.
Favorite team is the Nuggets.
When you're bad, do you have rivals? I don't know. Good question.
We've talked about that on this podcast.
we've talked about it. Anything else to get to here?
I don't think so.
Last week when we closed out, we said, who knows what happened? Maybe next week at this time we'll have a head coach.
Yep. Who knows what'll happen?
Who
Maybe
knows
next
what's
week
gonna
at this
happen?
time we'll have a head coach.
There you go. You just never know.
We don't.
You have a head coach right after we're done recording this.
It could be really nice.
You just don't know what's happening. You don't know what's happening.
Oh, I'm getting a call right now.
Oh, yeah. Who is that?
Oh, no.
Oh, hi, Mr. Penner. What's going on? All right. Well, that's going to do it for us. We'll be back next week with something.
Yep.
We'll talk about it. Until then, for Ben Swanson and Aric DiLalla, I'm Phil Milani. You've been listening to
The Neutral Zone.